The first time Alexander Whitmore almost died, he was 37 years old, sitting alone in the back of a black Maybach while rain hammered the roof like 1,000 tiny fists. The heart attack came without warning, no clutching of the chest, no cinematic gasp. Just a sudden, crushing pressure, as though an invisible hand had reached inside his ribcage and squeezed. The driver heard the soft thud of a body hitting Italian leather and slammed on the brakes on the FDR drive. By the time the ambulance arrived, Alexander's lips were turning blue, and the only word he managed to whisper before the darkness swallowed him was a name he had never once said aloud in her presence. Naomi. Then everything went quiet. 4 years earlier, Naomi Okeke stepped off the private elevator onto the 58th floor of Whitmore Tower for the first time wearing a navy pencil skirt she had dry cleaned twice because she couldn't afford a single wrinkle. She was 26, armed with an MBA from NYU she was still paying off, and a quiet fire no one in that glass palace had bothered to notice yet. The receptionist barely glanced up from her monitors. "Mr. Whitmore's office is at the end. Don't keep him waiting. He hates waiting." Naomi walked the long corridor alone, heels clicking against marble that probably cost more per square foot than her childhood home in Bed-Stuy. She had expected the billionaire to be old, white-haired, maybe even kind in a distant, patriarchal way. Instead, the man who stood when she entered was tall, broad-shouldered, with storm-gray eyes and a face that belonged on the cover of Forbes, again. Alexander Whitmore was 33, impossibly handsome, and already rumored to be colder than the Hudson in January. "You're late," he said, not looking up from the tablet in his hand. "I'm 2 minutes early," Naomi replied, voice steady. He glanced at the clock on the wall, then at her. Something flickered across his face, surprise, maybe respect, then vanished. "You're the 5th assistant this year," he said, tossing the tablet onto his desk. "The last one cried in the elevator on her way out. Think you can last longer?" "I don't cry easily, Mr. Whitmore." "Good. Tears are inefficient." That was the beginning. She learned quickly that Alexander Whitmore did not do small talk, did not celebrate birthdays, did not remember that humans needed to eat. He worked 18-hour days, spoke 5 languages, and could dismantle a hostile board member with the precision of a surgeon. He also never said thank you. Not once. But Naomi noticed things. She noticed that he always left exactly 1 inch of coffee in every cup, as if finishing it completely was some kind of defeat. She noticed that he loosened his tie only when he thought no one was looking. She noticed the way his jaw tightened whenever his father's name was mentioned in the press, the old man who had built Whitmore Enterprises with ruthless hands and left his only son a legacy of expectations sharp enough to cut. And Alexander noticed her. He noticed that she never complained when he sent her to Tokyo on 4 hours' notice. He noticed that she could read a 400-page contract faster than his legal team and spot the one clause that would cost him hundreds of millions. He noticed the way she smelled, like shea butter and something warm he couldn't name, and how her laughter, rare as it was, made the entire floor seem less gray. He noticed, but he never said a word. Year 1 turned into year 2. Naomi became indispensable. She was the only person allowed in his office without knocking. She was the only one who could tell him no and live to tell about it. She was the one who found him asleep at his desk at 4 a.m. and draped her blazer over his shoulders without waking him. And still, he never said it. He almost did, once. It was the night Whitmore Enterprises went public with its clean energy division, the deal Naomi had shepherded for 18 straight months. The stock soared. Champagne flowed. The ballroom at the plaza was filled with people who wanted to shake Alexander's hand and pretend they were his friends. Naomi stood near the bar in a black gown that hugged every curve she usually kept hidden under tailored suits. She was laughing at something the CFO said when Alexander appeared at her side, 2 flutes of champagne in his hands. "You did this," he said quietly, handing her one. "We did this." "No. You did." For one heartbeat, the noise of the room faded. His eyes, those storm-gray eyes, locked onto hers, and she saw something raw there. Something that terrified him. He opened his mouth. "Naomi, I..." His phone buzzed. A crisis in London. He answered it without hesitation, turning away as if the moment had never existed. She told herself it didn't hurt. But it did. By year 3, the rumors started. People noticed how Alexander's gaze lingered when Naomi walked into a room. They noticed that no other woman ever spent the night in his penthouse, not models, not actresses, not the European princess who had once thrown herself at him at Davos. They noticed that Naomi was the only person he called by her first name. And they talked. Is she sleeping with him? Has to be. Why else would he keep a black girl from Brooklyn around? Naomi heard every whisper. She smiled through all of them. She told herself the money was good, the experience invaluable, that she was building something no one could take away. But some nights, when she was alone in her apartment with a glass of cheap wine and the city lights blinking outside her window, she let herself wonder. What if he did love her? What if he was just too proud, too damaged, too afraid to say it? What if she was wasting her heart on a man who would never be brave enough to claim it? Then came the heart attack. He woke up 3 days later in a private room at New York Presbyterian, machines beeping softly around him. The first face he saw was Naomi's. She was asleep in the chair beside his bed, still wearing the same clothes she'd had on when the ambulance took him away. Her head was tilted at an awkward angle, braids spilling over one shoulder, and there were tear stains on her cheeks. He stared at her for a long time. When she woke up, she gasped. "You're awake." "Barely," he croaked. She poured him water with shaking hands. He drank, eyes never leaving her face. "You haven't slept," he said. "I couldn't." "Why?" She looked at him like he was the dumbest man on earth. "Because I thought you were going to die, Alexander. And I never got to tell you," her voice cracked. "I never got to tell you that I'm quitting." The heart monitor beeped faster. "What?" "As soon as you're stable, I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore." "Do what?" "Love you when you don't love me back." The words hung between them like a guillotine. He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. "Naomi." "Don't," she whispered. "Don't say something now just because you almost died. I deserve more than a deathbed confession." "I'm not," his voice was raw. "I'm not saying it because I almost died. I'm saying it because I woke up and realized I've been dying slowly for 4 years. Every day I didn't tell you was another day I killed a part of myself." She stared at him. "I love you," he said, and it sounded like it hurt. "I've loved you since the day you walked into my office and weren't afraid of me. I love the way you say my name like it's a complete sentence. I love that you leave one bite of sandwich on every plate because you think I don't notice you saving it for me when I forget to eat. I love that you cry at ASPCA commercials but pretend you don't. I love you so much it terrifies me. I'm a coward, Naomi. I was raised to believe love makes you weak. My father, Alexander's voice broke. He destroyed every person he ever claimed to love. I didn't want to destroy you." Tears rolled down her face. "You absolute idiot," she whispered. "I know. You could have just said it. I know." She stood up, walked to the bed, and kissed him. It was not gentle. It was 4 years of waiting, of almosts, of unsaid words and stolen glances and pretending not to care. It was anger and relief and love so fierce it felt like grief. When they pulled apart, she was crying harder. "I hate you," she said. "I know," he whispered again, thumb brushing her tears. "Marry me anyway." She laughed through the tears. "You don't get to propose while you're hooked up to a heart monitor. Then I'll ask again when I'm not." "You'd better." 6 months later. The wedding was small, only 60 people, on a cliff in Montauk with the ocean roaring below. Naomi wore a simple silk gown the color of sunrise. Alexander wore a linen suit and a smile he couldn't seem to take off. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Alexander's college roommate raised his hand jokingly. "I object. She's way too good for him." Everyone laughed. Even Naomi. Later, during their first dance, Alexander held her close and whispered against her hair. "I'm still going to be difficult sometimes. I know. I'll probably work too much. I'll drag you home. I might forget anniversaries. I'll remind you." Loudly. He pulled back just enough to look at her. "I will never forget to say I love you again. Not one single day." She smiled, eyes shining. "Good. Because I plan to say it back every time." And somewhere, in the crowd, the old receptionist from the 58th floor wiped a tear and turned to the person beside her. "Told you," she said. "Tears are inefficient. But sometimes, they're everything." If this story touched your heart even a little, hit that like button, it means the world to this channel. And if you believe in second chances, in love that waits, in the kind of love that's brave enough to speak when it matters most, subscribe. Because every week, we bring you stories like this, real, raw, beautiful reminders that it's never too late. Until next time, love out loud. Never wait until it's almost too late.